What really is the Displacer Beast in Dungeons & Dragons? Did it even originate there? If not, what was the inspiration that eventually led to the six-legged, tentacled, illusory feline that we know today? Well, I spent the last 2 weeks researching its origins, and the answer, turns out, isn't an entirely different genre. But if you don't know what a Displacer Beast is, imagine a black panther with furry tendrils that grow from its shoulders with Velcro-like teeth on its end. These tendrils also create an illusory duplicate of the beast appearing a few feet away, confusing its foes into attacking the illusion.
Clever girl.
But if that is too scary for you, here is a baby Displacer Beast for you to enjoy. Aww. But to fully understand what this meowing monstrosity is, we must first understand how it was born. So just like what we did with the Kraken and the Tarrasque, let's first look at the origins of the Displacer Beast, how it changed over the years, and how it measures up to the cat that we know today. All in this episode of History vs. D&D. First published in the magazine Astounding Stories of Super Science in July 1939 was a science fiction short story called The Black Destroyer. Spoilers for a 60-year-old story, but it focuses in on a creature called a Cowurl, a sentient black cat-like animal that struggles with its own starvation on its planet. Its meal of choice? Phosphorus. And apparently humans have a decent quantity, especially in our bones and kidneys. So when a few human scientists land on the Cowurl's planet, he attempts to befriend them by communicating through radio waves. He gets a quick snack out of one of them before they lock him up, but uses the power of vibration to unlock the cage, increasing the frequency of his power to do so. He can then manipulate the energy of the ship's atomic energy around him. With this resonance, he locates the engine room and barricades himself inside as he builds himself an escape pod. His plan is to return to the human's homeworld for limitless phosphorus, and that drives him. His abilities also include manipulating energy, electricity, and being able to breathe in different kinds of atmospheres. But whether he escapes or not, you'll have to find out by reading it yourself. I included it in the link below, or the description below, if you are curious. But it's interesting to note that in the original script, the Cowurl was built more like a gorilla with longer forelegs. Its ears were also hair-like tendrils, and the tendrils on its back each had 7 fingers acting like hands, and having incredible strength. The author A.E. von Vogt later reused the story in The Voyage of the Space Beagle, making some minor changes to the Cowurl, giving them suction cups instead of fingers and changing their diet from phosphorus to potassium. But in either case, this cat beast did not have its roots in fantasy, but rather sci-fi. The Cowurls weren't the only monster in the book that eventually inspired a D&D monster, but we'll cover that another time. Later in this same adapted story, however, the scientists run into another creature called the Ixtal, a being obsessed with its own reproduction and implanted eggs in their stomachs. If that sounds familiar, you would be right to assume that the Ixtals and the Cowurls later inspired the Alien series with the beloved Sigourney Weaver. This was proven by the fact that author von Vogt actually sued the production company for plagiarism, settling out of court for $50,000. In fact, this sci-fi story went on to inspire many books and films in the genre of mysterious alien infiltrates spaceship and kills off humans. Like in Star Trek episode The Man Trap, they find a fellow crewman dead, fully drained of sodium, or salt. And just like they had offered pure phosphorus to the Cowurl in this short story, Spock and Captain Kirk lure the aliens out with salt tablets and eventually overpower it. But more importantly, the Cowurl went on to inspire more specific characters in its image. One appeared in a Japanese light novel called Dirty Pair, which later was adapted into anime and manga versions. The anime comprised of Kai and Yuri, hired space consultants, that somehow ended up causing extreme collateral damage in their wake. So, you know, basically like every superhero movie now. But this ultimately gave them the nickname Dirty Pair. And one of their assistants was a genetically modified intelligent feline named Mugi. that had tendrils that could emerge from its back. Sound familiar? Though I think that they got rid of the tendrils in the anime may be considered too weird or not cute enough for younger audiences. Who knows? The Coral's most notable media adaptation, however, was within the Final Fantasy video games, first appearing in Final Fantasy II. It has had a lot of iterations depending on the game or region within. Generally, they have the ability to paralyze the target, silence targets with their gaze, do AoE lightning damage, petrify with their breath, and even auto-kill a player. It would rely on these magical abilities more than physical attacks until it was low on health. Some similarities you could compare to the original Beast, but have very much taken creative liberties. In Final Fantasy XII, they even adopted some weird Cthulhu-like features and renamed them to the Bander Coeurl. Either way, they made great hunters and even better player mounts. Coeurls also went by another name, the Torama, which literally translates to tiger demon in Japanese. Now, I wish I had a deeper understanding of Final Fantasy games, but personally my childhood was too obsessed with Pokemon. But arguably, Espeon might have taken inspiration from these beasts as well, which makes sense with its psychic typing. And another one might be the six-legged panther beasts from Avatar called Thanators. But that is more similar to D&D's version. Speaking of, now that we know about the origins of the Displacer Beast and the different forms it took, let's look at what happened to the Coeurl once it got into the hands of the early D&D creators. When developing D&D for the first time, Gary Gygax would take inspiration from all sorts of sources, the most famous being the bullet and owlbear made from the image of dollar store rubber toys. But that's their own episode. The Displacer Beast as well was no exception and was taken straight from its source. It appeared first in the Monster Manual 1st edition, where it was described as vaguely puma-like, and appeared 3 feet from its actual position. It also described its tentacles as not having hands, but instead fully covered in thorns, and their pelts being naturally magic resistant. In Dungeon Magazine number 109, it further develops the ecology of the Displacer Beast, saying that it used subtle vibrations emitted from its flesh that reflected light to distort its appearance. Sounds a lot like our original inspiration. In 3rd edition, these creatures could grow up to 20 feet long as a Displacer Beast pack lord, and were intelligent enough to speak common, but that one actually didn't last long. In 4th edition, they were given longer reach, but their intelligence was taken away. But it wasn't until 5th edition that they were described as great allies for wizards or rangers, and even found its familiar counterpart with the Displacer Beast kitten in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book. Fun fact, Displacer Beast kittens are born without tentacles, and after 8 weeks, start growing them at about an inch a day. But if we look at its stat block, it is surprisingly simple. It has an ability similar to the Rogue's Evasion ability, avoiding saving throws better, and then its core displacement feature that causes attacks against it to have disadvantage. At least we have a tentacle attack that expresses both the crushing blow and ripping Velcro teeth. Now, some differences we need to mention from its original source is its extra set of legs and the teeth that now sport on its appendages. Now, it does kind of offhandedly explain this by saying it had otherworldly origins, and that they were bred to be incredible hunters by the denizens of the Unseelie Court in the Feywild. So, it's possible that they bred the extra legs and teeth to make that happen. But unfortunately, we don't know what other reason they may have had added these things in the writer's room. However, we do know that they have one weakness, the poor blink dogs that disrupt their displacement energies by teleporting around too much. Gotta have that cat-dog dynamic even in the fantasy world. But to me, now knowing all that we could know about the origins of Coeurls and what they could do, the Displacer Beast now kind of seems lackluster.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
With it being one of the most iconic D&D monsters to date, I feel like we can do more to do service to both its alien origins as well as its popularity in the tabletop sphere. So let's do that. For centuries, the denizens of the Feywild bred and trained Displacer Beasts to amplify their savage and predatory instincts. The magical experiments inflicted upon them left an enduring mark on their lineage. Over generations, these creatures evolved rapidly, mastering more than just the frequencies of light. They soon wielded sound and lightning, lifted objects through vibrations, and crafted illusions of staggering complexity. The brightest among them, Pack Lords, organized formidable prides, drawing others to their cause. Despite their newfound power, the scars of their subjugation remained fresh in their collective memory. They have not forgotten the indignity of being treated as mere beasts, and so they have honed their skills, their cunning, and their rage toward a single purpose: to hunt down their former masters and remind the Fae that some creatures should never have been chained. And so, for all of you who stayed this long, as always, I have made something for free for you to use in the description below. You can now play the Displacer Beast Pack Lord at your tables, a creature that did exist in 3.5 but really wasn't all that interesting, until now. A monstrosity molded by genetic experimentation that amplified its control over all vibrations, just like the Coeurl from the Alien short story and even taking inspiration from Final Fantasy. Create an encounter or adventure with an intelligent beast that hunts you down with frequencies on every spectrum. Find the stat block in the description below, or if you want the fancy PDF version, join my Patreon where you will get that and a plethora of other monsters, subclasses, races, and more. If you like this one, go and check out my video on the Tarrasque, where you'll find a humble hippo eventually inspiring a famous Mario character. Until next time, go out there and make your worlds a better place. See ya.